Question number 12, Kris Faafoi.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Pacific Peoples. Does he have confidence in his ministry?
The Honourable Pesata Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Yes.
Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Does he think taxpayers in the Pacific community will see an 850% increase in spending to, quote, staff the Minister's office, end quote, between the past two financial years is acceptable, reasonable and legitimate?
The Honourable Pesata Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, ultimately staffing matters are the responsibility of the Chief Executive. But what I can say...
Order.
Sir, but what I can say is that I expect my ministry to spend taxpayers' money prudently. And I've sought reassurances that the Chief Executive and the State Services Commissioner was spending money for legitimate ministry work, and it was consistent with the ministry's policies and procedures.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Given that answer, how does he explain an 8-fold increase on air travel for, quote, staffing the Minister's office, end quote, from $2,500 in 2012-13 to over $21,000 in 2013? Is that a reasonable and acceptable increase?
Sir,
Honourable Pesata Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Sir, as I said, sir, I expect the ministry to spend taxpayers' money more wisely. And that's why, when I became the Minister, the person in question that you're referring to was transitioned out of my office and a more suitable Wellington replacement was found.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Given that answer, does he think it is acceptable and reasonable that the bill went from $0 to $17,000 for an apartment to, quote, staff the Minister's office in the last financial year?
Speaker.
Order. Honourable Pesata Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Mr Speaker, as I've said in this House, when I became the Minister, I transitioned out the person whom you are referring to out of my office and a more suitable Wellington replacement was found. Hence, those expenses will come down.
Supplementary question, Kris Faafoi.
Does he think it is acceptable and reasonable that the taxi bill has gone from $324.57 to nearly $9,500, and the bill for incidentals and meals went from $0 to $9,605 between 2013 and 14 to staff his office?
The Honourable Pesata Sam Lotu-Iiga.
Mr Speaker, as I've already said to this question, in terms of the person that he's referring to that staffed my office, as soon as I became the Minister, that person was transitioned out of my office and a more suitable Wellington replacement was found.
Order. Point of order. Kris Faafoi.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table an OIA response showing the increase in cost of staffing the Minister's office went from just over $5,000 to little over $61,000.
The document's been described as a particular OIA document. Leave is sought to table it. Is there any objection? There is none. It can be tabled. That concludes questions for oral answer. Order. On the 2nd of December, when the Committee of the Whole House was considering Part 1 of the Public Safety, Public Protection Orders Bill